Yeah, as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, I'm Dr. Marilyn Weber. I'm the Environmental Commission Chair, and I'd like to welcome all of you that are attending this meeting. This is our third award ceremony, and we're real excited with the attendance. I would also like to welcome Mayor Higgins of Lake Como and Peter Van Treese, who's a councilman at Lake Como, Sid Wiley, who's a Spring Lake councilwoman, and our award winners and environmental commission members, and our speakers, which are John Gibbons, Kim Rowe of the Monmouth County chapter of Native Plant Society, and Dr. Jeff Fowd of Monmouth University. We are here because of the Patchwork for Wildlife program that we have. This is unique to Lake Como. We're the only town in New Jersey that has it. What it is, it's a program where we encourage environmental development in individual yards in the town. We have 3 levels and of environmental development, and we would like to also eventually get all yards involved in the town and improve the habitat for wildlife and pollinators, and provide food for wildlife and pollinators, and improve the environmental habitat. And if we do 100 yards, we will have the equivalent of an acre of eco-friendly land.
Just tell me when you want the next slide.
Okay, I need the next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, the first level of appreciation is the entry level. This is a single improvement for your yard. It can be a reduced lawn area. It can be an individual garden that has native plants. It could be a compost bin. And we, as they say, we give these out like confetti, but we have, we give out a lot of them because we want to encourage, if you start at the entry level, that maybe you go on to the next level. Okay, John, do you want to show the next 2 slides? Yeah, this is individual or entry level award winners for flower beds and borders with some native planting. Most of this is on Pine Street and Boulevard, but they're in areas of Lake Como. Okay, you can switch, John. Okay, this is again some more of the individual entry winners, and it doesn't take a lot to get one of these entry levels. I mean, even if you just have a compost bin, that counts. A lot of these are plantings, but small plantings, but they still count, and so that's why we award these levels. Okay, John. And this is some more. Like I said, we gave out a lot of these, but we appreciate your effort to improve the environment and create wildlife habitat in your yard. And thank you for all those people that did that. Okay, now this could also include partially pervious driveways, grass or lawn grid. You can have tire strips, you can have granular, and these are some of the lawns that did improve that in that area. Okay, John. Okay, the next level of appreciation is a beneficial level. This shows multiple improvements to your yard. It's either a front yard or a backyard. It's not both. Having a mature tree there, sometimes it's having maximum native plants or a native tree or a very little one. Okay, John. Okay.
There we are.
Okay, these are some of the winners, as you can city. Some of them have the front yard planted with native plants or the verge planted with native plants and having minimal lawn area. And that's the kind of things that we look for the beneficial area.
Thank
Okay.
you.
The last area is the distinctive level. This is extensive improvements. It's both front and backyard. It can include the driveway. Some people have wildlife sanctuaries, monarch way stations, a maximum number of native plants. And some of them have many trees and other plantings. And we're going to show you some pictures of those. Okay, John. Okay. This is 1833 Pine Terrace. This is one of the distinctive level areas. You can see the extensive plantings and minimal lawn that they have. Okay, John. This is 1805 Pine Terrace. This is, they did a lot of planting and have a lot of native plants, and they cleaned up some area that was dug out and cleaned up all the stones and then used them to do a stone pathway there. And these are what they call lawn alternatives. Okay, John. Oops. Okay, and these are some of the fruits and vegetables that have been planted. You can see the lavender area that was planted, the flowers there. And so you see that there's many possibilities that can be done. Okay, John. And
Yay, Rochelle.
there you go. Yeah, 1836 Briarwood Terrace. And this is example of their yard with some stone building and trees and some grapes growing over here. Yeah, so this is cool. It's a nice yard. Okay, John. All right. And okay, now to create our distinctive destination and encourage further participation, we have signs that we are developing for each lawn. And what our plan is to get each lawn labeled and then hopefully have a walkthrough sometime in the summer so that you know, we can point out each yard as we go by. Environmental garden tour, yes. And John got, we had a donation, actually 2 donations that will pay for the signs. They'll have a laminated certificate with their level of participation, and then it'll be mounted on a elevated stick so that the people that go by can read it and find out what's going on. And then those will be during the environmental garden tour. We'll have the signs in the yard. Okay, John. Okay. All right, now, John, do you want to do this? This is Sid Wally.
Well, all it is
It's not all it is, it's everything.
Sid gets a special award because she's doing something very interesting at a systematic reimagining of her yard, which is one thing, which she'll tell you about. And the second thing is it's very visible. You know, a lot of people can see it, and being a counselor, it's a model for others in the town. So we're very impressed. So Sid, I'm going to stop sharing, and you can be on the hot seat now. Okay.
Okay, thank you, John. Let's
Okay.
see if I can do this. I'm going to go up here.
Wow, it's beautiful.
and I'm
Okay,
just
yes.
looking for the slide. So I want to show you, I'm trying to get this just to be one big picture. Where does it do that? Oh, please, and hold on a second. So I live in Spring Lake, and First, I want to thank John for encouraging me to do this. I'm very much a novice compared to most of you. The yards that you just showed are really pretty, and mine still got a lot of grass. But I'll show you what I've done. Can you see my slides?
Answer is always available as well.
Maybe you better mute people.
Somebody has to mute themselves.
I would like to add another announcement. Those of you who've been getting the school newsletters, you probably know. December 18th.
Could
is a
everybody
big day.
mute
It's the last day
themselves?
for the winter break, and we've got like
Yeah, we're hearing
things going
someone's
on the whole
school.
morning. So starting at 9:30, we have a drop of the children. 9:30 is a parent coffee schmooze. Just
Who's
come
ever
talk.
listening to
We're gonna
the
talk
school,
December
can you
dilemma
mute
type
yourself?
stuff. 10:30.
Whoever the host is, you can mute
Oh.
people.
I-
So if
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
just
I'm muting
Yeah.
people now, yeah.
Talent show. Last year was
Yes,
our first ever.
Cohen.
This year is gonna
Yes.
be even better.
Yes,
but we
Cohen,
need you
mute.
or your children. We need you to sign up your children for the talent show. The link
Yeah.
is in the newsletter. And then.
Oh, there it
following
is. Got it.
Oh, okay.
The
Okay.
magic muter.
I'm not that quick at this. So this is my house. It's a little house in Spring Lake. It was built in 1922. I purchased it in 2009. It's a 100 by 100 corner lot. I renovated it about 10 years ago, and that sort of started me on the re-landscaping track, and it's a southern exposure. My initial philosophy, because my mother was a Wisconsin farmer, was to make it really practical for the landscapers to cut. And so it was all grass. And then about 10 years, no, probably 8 years ago, I met a bird watcher in Spring Lake at Divine Park. That's by our namesake lake. And we were doing some renovations, and she told me, don't take down all of the native plants. And I'm a tree person. I had never really gotten into native plants. I just like trees. So that really started me on this path of native plants. And then somehow I stumbled on John Gibbons and really changed my life. So I'm just going to show you about 8 slides of what I've been doing over the last few years. This was my first project in the backyard. The yard it was like 20 by 30. And I took like 6 feet, and these are all native plants. And you can see I listed there what I have. Sorry, I'm not into all the different names and stuff. I just know the common names. This is this summer, and it really took off. And so now I have less grass, and that's about 6 feet wide, that little area. So that I did a few years ago. And then on the east side of my house, this is on Long 4th Avenue. As I was learning more from John, I kind of went simple. And you can see these are all the asters that bloom in the fall. And then there's a winterberry bush way back here at the corner of the house that gets a lot of berries. And I have sweet pepper bush. I also put in like 13 milkweed, but they did not do well. I haven't done well with milkweed. So this was another project from a few years ago. I had to put up something to a trellis, to block my garbage cans. And this honeysuckle just went crazy this last year. So that's been a lot of fun to watch. See what's next. Last summer, I put a porch on the front of the house, and it really changed everything. It's hard to see, but all of the plants here are native plants. And then over on the other side of the house too, they're all native. And I just listed everything that I put. The only thing that hasn't worked is the liatris. I don't know why. There were like groups of 3 and they all died. And then right in the middle here, it's hard to see now, but there's actually a red bud. I put a red bud tree in, but I call it a manicured native garden that you can see like everything's separate, and I kind of clean up around them. and it's not, it doesn't grow wild. I mean, they grow, but that's just what I do. And then this last summer, I added on that last slide, over to the left of the house, I added, depending on the way it curved, 4 to 6 more feet on the front flower bed. And then we did this corner where I have the sweet pepper bush, foxglove, and I'm waiting for another beautyberry to come in to put in the middle. In the back, when I did the porch, where the porch used to be, there used to be a flower bed that had a bunch of black-eyed Susans. So I actually just moved it to the backyard. And that was a difficult spot right along the barbecue and the patio, but they did great. The trees that I have in my yard, I mentioned the red bud. On the right of way, what we call the right of way, that little grassy strip, we just planted swamp white oak, and then I have the native hollies. Because these other ones were all planted before I knew about native plants. I do have 2 London planes, a crepe myrtle, and if that crepe myrtle dies, I'm getting rid of it and putting something else. And then I have 2 really pretty paper bark maples. Because my mom was a Wisconsin farmer for the last 40 years, I've always had vegetable beds, and now I'm wondering, why do I even bother? And I go through, it's like, should I just put some native flowers in there? I do the parsley every year because the New Jersey state butterfly, the swallowtails, love them, and they like the parsley plants, and their caterpillars look just like the monarch butterfly caterpillars. So you can see that's my grandson and me, like this summer in the backyard in the vegetable beds. So these are the resources that I use mostly. ELD, many of you know them. They are a huge landscape outfit. They're my landscapers, and there's a woman there, Kirsten Soriano, who is she's head of one of the grounds crews, and she has a degree in botany, and she's really interested in native plants, and so she helps me pick out what I'm putting around the house. Now, in terms of maintenance, we do use the certified weed-free mulch each spring that ELD does. I trim and weed the beds and transplant small flowers, but not bushes. I don't let them use gas-powered leaf blowers in the summer. I tell them just leave it. There is an irrigation system around the house. I haven't expanded or gotten into composting. I'm working full-time, and then I'm on the council in Spring Lake, so I'm sorry to say I haven't done composting. And then ELD pretty much takes care of the grass. So that's what I have. And it's been a lot of fun. And John, as you all know, he's so supportive and so positive. It's been great. So thank you. And I can answer questions later. So I'm going to stop my share. Okay, John?
Sure. Okay.
The end.
Now I get to try it again. Okay, here we go. Okay, my goodness, well, wonders never cease. And the thing that I wanted you to see as well, everybody, is that that transforming your yard doesn't have to be sudden. It's just a multi-year. It take a little bit at a time and gradually work around. And then sooner, and at some point you find that it's actually happened. So thank you very much, Sid. This is incredible. And actually she's planting, in Lake Como, we plant 10 trees, and Spring Lake, they plant 100 trees, so that's the difference. And she's planted an incredible number of native trees in Spring Lake. So congratulations. It's great to see what you do.
Thanks, John.
So now let's talk about trees. What a segue. Because this year, what we decided to do was to not just look at what people do on the ground, but also look what happens in the air. Okay, and that has to do with trees. And this is kind of, people who know me know about my Eat Your Vegetables talks. Well, this is your Eat Your Vegetables talk, okay? You know, and when you're a kid, you're at dinner and the dinner's finished and what's left on your plate, right? Vegetables. And what does your mom say to you? Eat your vegetables. They're good for you. So anyway, this is our Eat Your Vegetables talk, okay? So here's the trees. Here's all the lists. We know a lot of these things that that trees can do. And the cooling is very good along the street and the residents. And they actually improve property values. There's facts and figures on this. And of course, they're great looking. But I want to focus on one aspect, and that is there's a guy named Doug Tallamy who wrote a very interesting book, Bringing Nature Home. And it's about how all the bugs and wildlife and all that should need to be supported in your yards. And I can recommend this book to everybody. And in that book is a list of trees, a ranking of trees by how many butterfly and moth caterpillars they have. Now, they're important because the birds eat the caterpillars, okay? Fortunately, there's always enough left to have more butterflies and so on. And so they're very important. And so if you look at this list, now it's not every kind of wildlife, whatever, it's those two genus. And but it's very telling because the lowly oak, look at the number 554. Then you come down to willows, cherries and plums, any kind of cherry tree, okay, birches, and down you go, okay. And that list is available. Now, this was a study, a scientific study, so it's not comprehensive about all different kinds of wildlife, nor comprehensive about all kinds of trees. For instance, you won't find a tupelo there, or you find a hackberry? No hackberries, which are great, and no red buzz, no, and so on. Okay, so but this is an indication of how important trees are and which is the most important ones. And oaks are pretty important. We're going to save them. Okay, so anyway. So that's the tree. That's how much they help. There's another thing which is now just hot off the presses, and this gal Heather Home, who is a real guru on native plants and wildlife and stuff like that. She writes a beautiful book on pollinators, and that's great. And she advised on this. And the thing that is becoming to recognize is that there's a relationship which what goes on in the superstructure of the tree and what goes on the ground. And we know that we really need to leave the leaves because that's where there's a lot of life in the leaves. Well, the point is underneath the trees, it's especially important because here's what happens. In the autumn, all the wildlife, the insects and all that sort of stuff, all the stuff you see here, okay, they go down into the ground for the winter. And so you really want to provide habitat for them and don't take away leaves there because you're taking away life, okay? Then in the summer, guess what they do? They come after they've gone through their life cycle and they come up for the spring. They go back up into the tree. And I have a direct experience of that because there's something called a plum cuculio. It's a weevil, and that's son of a gun. I have a green gauge plum, which is a small, sweet dessert plum. It's an English type plum, and I have great difficulty in getting a crop out of it because of these little critters. And what they do, after they do their thing on the plums, they go down into the underneath the tree, and they overwinter. So you got to really clean it out. And then the little, I'm going to call them buggers because they are bugs. They climb up the trunk of the tree and go up and look for more fruit to lay their eggs in them. So this is it. So the point about this is the underneath the tree is an especially important area to provide habitat. And that's where you, if you want to plant native plants and stuff like that, and so on, that's a really great place to plant them in under a tree. And there are plant lists, you'll find out from the Native Plant Society, there are plant lists for plants to grow in shade. Okay, so you can do it. So we have to assess the value of trees above as well as the ground below. And there's a relationship between the two. I just learned this a few weeks ago. So, you know, we're all learning here. Now, what is the eco value, the value that a tree can provide in relation to whatever we can do on the ground? Well, here comes some high school math. Here's the area underneath the tree's leaf zone, okay? That's that landing area, okay? The soft landing, they call it. And let's call a tree's leaf zone to be like a stretchy hemisphere, okay? Not a pure hemisphere, but stretchy, that goes like this or like this and so on, okay? Just as an abstract thing. And there's your trunk, and that's easy to calculate. And and people say, well, because the leaves mostly grow around the perimeter of the tree, mostly, not all. So there is some depth to it. But if you look on the ground, there's also some depth in whatever you plant. Okay, so we'll just assume, for the sake of argument, that they're roughly the same. Okay. So now, here's our little stretchy hemisphere, and you've got the area of the leaf zone. It's pi, which is the way you calculate areas of circles and surfaces and all that sort of thing, times the diameter, that's the total width across, times the height. And look, because we're aiming for like 20% accuracy here, okay? Not 100% accuracy, just to get a rough figure. Pi is like 3.1417, and you could go around the earth until you came to the end of pi, okay? It doesn't end. But for our argument, let's just call it 3, okay? It's 5% off, okay? And let's say your tree is 20 feet wide and 30 feet high, all right? So is 3 times 20 wide times 30 feet high, 1,800 square feet. That's the area contributed by the tree in your little stretchy hemisphere, okay? Now, let's take the area under the tree, okay? It's pi times r squared. Well, half your 20 is 10, so there's your pi times 10 times, up, back. I can't go back. This is terrible. Oh, here we go. Previous. It's just a little slow. There's a gazillion megabytes in this show, I'll tell you. Okay, and so there's your 3 times 10 by 10, 300. So what it means is for this particular tree, 20 feet wide, 30 feet high, it's 6 times the amount of the area that you do underneath. So anything you do underneath, if you have a tree, that dimensions, it's 6 times the eco value. Okay, so people say we always look at head height when we're looking down the street and walking in the yard and stuff like that. We really need to raise our eyes up a bit and look what's happening above, because those trees are really valuable. And we've got to stop the tree Armageddon in Lake Como and other towns. Anyway, so now here's the sun going over the tree, shining on this little these little stretchy hemispheres. Here's a kind of a lowish one. This is on Laurel Terrace here. Okay, here's another one, a different shape and a shape. So how do they end up with a different the effect of different shapes of trees? Okay, well, here's our little hemisphere. Okay, we've modeled it with and now we can do previous here. Okay, you see, very roughly, we're aiming for 20% precision here. Okay, there's one. Let's see how we model this one. Okay, same thing. I'll do it again. there, okay? And then how about this one here? There, and I'll go back to previous. All right, now even that can be done with the thing. Now here's how you do it. This, I'm going to go back. Here's the way we can measure it. This is a very handy way of saying, how do we get these dimensions, okay? We don't have one of those things that does this and this and so on like that. No. We can, what we do is, we're in suburbia, and that's beautiful. We're not in the woods. So we have a reference. Here's a floor-to-floor height of a house, okay? 10 feet, all right? Now, here's a tree. It's the height of that, 10 feet, okay? You don't go from the ground, you go from where all the green stuff is, okay? Now you turn that on its side, and there's 10, 20. It's a 10 by 20 tree. You can do a yard in 15 minutes by doing this here. How about this one? Okay, this tree happens to be 20 across by 20 high, okay? You see? And then here, this one here, here's your house, 10 feet, start here, 10, 20, 30, 40 high by say 20 wide. Do you see what I mean? It's very easy. And the whole 100 yards we've done so far, all the trees are logged this way, and a very approximate calculation of their surface area and the value in relation to what's on the ground. All right. So I won't go through the math. But here's what happens with these different sized trees for a low flat, like a Japanese maple, something like that, or a fringe tree or something like that. It's twice. Okay. For a tree this shape, it's 4 times. And for a taller tree, it's 8 times. Okay. So those tall trees are incredibly valuable. And this is all for the same width of the circle. Okay. So this is only related to height. Okay. So you can see your taller, thinner trees are more valuable for the same ground area. Okay. And here are some trees. There's a tree we looked at here. Okay. That's in Laurel. Here's one on Briarwood, down the end of Briarwood. And all the rest of these trees have been done using this simple method. And we've calculated all these areas. Now, let's see what we come up with. You can, in Google Maps, you can calculate areas. And if you, let's say we want to know for a yard, what's the, if for Sid Wally's yard, you know, what's the maximum eco area that she can have? Okay. So what you do is you go around in Google Maps and you take the area like that. And there's the area net of the house. Let's, come on, houses are off the board, right? And that gives you the potential area for doing something positive in your yard. Okay. Now here is all the results of our streets so far. We concentrated on Pine and Briarwood this time, but previously we did Parkway, and I think some of you who were there remember that. Here's the gross area with the house for Parkway. Here's the open land area, like this was here, okay? And here's the certificates area. Now, if you look at the certificates area related to the potential area, Parkway was 12%, okay? 12% eco land on Parkway out of what's possible, okay? Now, Laurel Terrace, oh my goodness, Laurel Terrace is 6%, okay? There's not a lot of really eco-friendly yards. And if you look at Patrick's house at the corner, his faces 18th Avenue and Candide's garden faces 18th Avenue. So Laurel's a little bit hard done by because it only has Jackie Bonavita's distinctive in it. So that's why that's kind of low. Pine Terrace, here's the figures, the open land, there you go, certificates area, 15%. Because as you saw, the distinctive ones, there were 2 distinctive ones and a beneficial one on it, plus all the little bitty ones. So 15%, which is better, but still there's 85% still potential of what people can do in their yards. And then in Briarwood, or Rusty and Rochelle have their place and so on. There's the certificates area and it's 7%. Okay, so there's a measure of the work we need to do. Then we fold trees into it. The trees value in relation to what's on the ground, it's on Parkway, it's 1.4 times the amount that people have done on the ground. So those trees are already there. Okay, and then in Laurel Terrace, it's 3.3 times what's been done. And on Pine Terrace, 4.7 times of what's on the ground. And on Briarwood, about 4.5. So you see, they're kind of similar. Now, that's the magnitude of our challenge right there. All right. Now, there's one more thing I want to show you. If you look at all the totals to date of existing land, trees, and new work, okay, stuff since we have been advising people on what to do, okay, that we've and here's the area of an acre. We've already got an acre of existing eco-friendly area, okay, we've already got our acre, but that's not the key. The key is to change behaviors, isn't it? So if you look over here, we're looking at the new stuff since we started advising people. We're 37% toward getting our acre. And we've got 2 years to do it. 2004, by the town centennial, we need to get the rest of our acre. So here we go. There's the challenges out there. And Sid, you got to get planting. Okay. So anyway, and then the trees here, there's a lot more than an acre. Do you see what I mean? Okay, there's your eat your vegetables. Now we're going to move on to dessert here, okay? I'll stop sharing. And Kim, are you ready to go here?
I'm all set. Let me just share my screen.
Okay, and I've gotten rid of mine. Oh, beautiful.
There we go. Well, thank you everybody for inviting me to speak today. I'm really excited about it and I've been very impressed with what I've heard so far. So in fact, it's kind of inspiring me to want to get involved with my environmental commission and get this going in Brielle, where I live. So I may be reaching out to some of you for advice on that subject. I decided today to talk a little bit about ways to manage our properties, because we all seem to be very attentive to planting native plants. And we recognize how important it is to reinstate those natives that were in our area to start with. But we're just learning a lot about how to manage our properties better to support the lifestyles of the rich and famous. No, the life cycles of the various insects and animals that we want to exist there. So what we do, those things that we do to manage our properties are really important. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I've laid out 5 simple steps that we can take specifically in the fall that will contribute to a better eco-friendly habitat in our yards. So the first one I call stop being a blowhard. I'm particularly antagonistic to leaf blowers because they are noisy and they drive me crazy, and because they're smelly and they pollute. But I don't know that I may be alone in that. But there are other reasons why it's important to let the leaf blower go. And these are some of them. What we blow away when we blow away our leaves are a lot of the animals that live in our habitats. So if we think about our insects, which are necessary, as John mentioned, for feeding birds, only a few of them are migratory. Most of them actually overwinter right on your property, right in that habitat that you're creating, especially under the trees, as John mentioned. So some of them overwinter as adults, like this morning cloak that you see on the left. Some of them overwinter as cocoons, as does this Luna moth that's in the center. And others overwinter as caterpillars. But all of them overwinter in the leaf litter underneath your trees and shrubs. So that's why it's really important to start falling in love with the leaves rather than blowing them away. The second thing we can do is try to save money on mulch. And when we look at this picture, I think most of us would agree that it's quite beautiful. I know I do. This is a photograph of the national park in Shenandoah National Park. And it's gorgeous. You know, they have the yellow leaves still on the trees and the golden leaves at the base of the trees, and they're just everywhere. And the little pathway that goes through it. And we all think that's beautiful. But then we ask ourselves, why don't we think this is beautiful? Why do we call this messy? This is basically the same thing, but in a yard context, in the context of a yard. And it's really important to start thinking about this a little bit and changing our mindset about what is beautiful. An important thing for us to think about is letting our plants stand through the winter. So again, this is going to involve a little bit of a mindset change. And, you know, I definitely identified with Sid's approach of trying to have a neat native plant garden, because it's a very strong mindset out there, and your neighbors and council people a lot of times will comment on native plant gardens where the plants are left to stand. In fact, I recently talked at a garden club, and we were talking about this very subject. And at the end of it, several people came up and said, "Oh, you have to see this property. It's been very controversial in town." Oh, I'm sorry. And oh, now we have to see how I do. Oh, I did well with the previous. And they said, "Oh, it's been very controversial because it's so messy." So after the presentation, I went to see it, and it had to have been a $20,000 landscape that someone put in easily. Beautiful, completely 100% native plants, but it's something that all the neighborhoods is going to have to get used to. It's a completely different look. This look is it's a view at the New York Botanical Garden in their native plant garden. If you have never been there, I would really suggest that you go, because it's just it's gorgeous at all times of year. But I was figuring, you know, if the New York Botanical Garden thinks this is beautiful, then maybe we can all get on board at some point. So let the plants stand if you can. It's important because not only do the plants provide winter interest, but they also provide seeds for birds. They provide a place for bees, native bees, to overwinter in the stems. And the stems themselves help trap leaves as they blow around and keep them on your property, which is really important as we understand how important leaves are to our landscapes. Number 4 on my list is leave some dead wood. And I don't love this picture because it's a little precious, you know. I mean, these are not natives. You have a lot of annuals here. You have hostas, and but I like it because it shows that, you know, dead wood can be pretty. And in this case, this homeowner used a stump and a fallen log, but anything you can leave on your property doesn't have to be planted with annuals, but it really contributes a great deal to the ecosystem. So the reason it does is because as this wood begins to decay, it supports all sorts of beneficial fungi, insects, and amphibians. And bees also nest in the wood. They drill into it and nest in it. So if you have some dead wood, leave it if you can. You can neaten it up like this person did so that it's a log and place it strategically. And that'll help with the view of it. If you can afford to leave a snag, a lot of times you'll see a tree that dies. Those are really important in the ecosystem. So if you can, if it's in a corner of your property that's not going to be too offensive, leave it if you can. It's great for birds, woodpeckers, all sorts of insects. And my last step is, I don't know if you've ever heard anybody say it's a good thing to be a procrastinator. But in the case of native plant habitat gardens, it's definitely a good thing. If you can delay cleanup until the temperatures in the area are consistently in the 50s, that's the best time to do it, because by that time, those overwintering insects have emerged and they're starting on their new life cycle. And you can, at that time, clean up a bit. But that being said, try not to be quite so neat as we have been trained to do. I know I went to horticulture school ancient history ago, and we were told clean up in the fall and remove every bit of plant material that you can. But the thinking has completely changed. And in these two pictures on the right, you see echinacea. That's in my garden. I love their little snow caps in the winter. And you'll see goldfinches feeding on those. And then on the left, you see a Joe Pye weed that's been cut down in the spring, and they're leaving the stems someplace between 12 and 18 inches long. And the reason you leave those stems sticking up like that rather than cutting it all the way to the ground is because that gives those native bees places to nest. Very shortly, the green leaves, the new green leaves for the spring will pop up and you will no longer see those. But the bees will be nesting in those stems throughout the summer. So be a procrastinator and delay a little bit. And if you do all 5 of those things, then you have an opportunity to enjoy the view, because what you'll see are a lot of our native songbirds out in the leaf litter, and they will be foraging there. And as John mentioned, they'll be finding the insects that they definitely need to live on. It's very, very important. And so if you can, try to leave the leaves behind. And now, if you will allow me, I just talked for a minute or two about the Native Plant Society. Thank you for that shout out, Sid. The Native Plant Society is a statewide organization, and we have quite a few chapters, as you can see in the map down on the right-hand corner. Our whole mission is around native plants, appreciating them, protecting them, studying them, and increasing public awareness of native plants and also promoting their use. So it's a great society, very enjoyable. And if you want to learn more about natives, and that really does include these ecological habitats, then come on down and join us. The society has 2 conferences every year. They traditionally have been live, one day, a full day live. We're going back to a live conference this year for the first time since COVID, but they are also going to offer it on a hybrid basis. So you can watch it online or go attend it live. We also do a whole series of webinars that occur once a month that are excellent and bring in really good speakers. And then on a chapter level, this is the Monmouth chapter. I'm the chapter leader of the Monmouth chapter, and it just started We just started it in April. It's growing like so fast. I can't even tell you. I'm so excited about it because we have so many people joining. Every time I talk about it, we have more people. So it's a tremendous group. We have been doing garden tours, naturalist walks. We've done tabling at Monmouth County Fair. We bring in some speakers. We do volunteering for other groups. For example, we installed a native plant garden at Clayton Park. And also this is a group that's working at Ross Lake Park in Long Branch. So together we have lots of fun. And on that subject, I'd like to invite you to the holiday celebration, which is December 8th. That's this coming Thursday. We're going to have refreshments. We're going to have a seed swap of native plants. So you don't have to bring seeds in order to be swapped. So it's kind of a misnomer, but we will, because we have plenty of seeds we're going to give out. There's a garden gift giveaway, and we're also going to do a garden wisdom exchange, meaning if you have questions, bring them, and collectively we'll put our heads together and see if we can get you some answers. And finally, an optional tool donation to Fulfill. Fulfill is the food bank garden up in Neptune, and we're going to bring them shears, pruning shears and snips, because believe me, I volunteer there and they are always dull. So, and not very useful. And here's a save the date for February 4th, because we're going to be doing a seed planting workshop. And that's going to be led by Randy Eckel, who is the owner of Toadshade Wildflower Farm, which is strictly a native plant nursery up in Frenchtown. And she's also the president of the Native Plant Society. So she's going to be there on Saturday, February 4th from 10 till 12 noon. It's at the Eastern Branch of the Monmouth County Library. And everybody will go home with a tray of seeds that you have planted. So join us. We'd love to see all of you at our next holiday event and at any event after that. If you want to get in touch or get on the mailing list, you can email me at monmouth@npsnj.org. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Great. Excellent. My goodness. And Kim has done wonders just in about 9 months in getting this new chapter off the ground. And there was a Jersey Shore chapter, but it's mostly concerned with the Barnegat Bay and on down, more Ocean County. This is more specific to our area. And that makes sense for us because we focus on Lake Como, and it's definitely just, not the Barnegat Bay, you see. So this is, and so on. So this is really good. And thank you so much. And a second thing, if you don't mind, one of the things we want to build into our evaluation of yards is exactly what you've been talking about. Now, that's something where you can't just look at a yard and see whether, well, you can to a certain extent, but you can't, you have to get a bit more involved. And I think for our next round, we'll probably start looking more at what we call sustainable operations in the yard. So this was a wonderful thing to kind of introduce that particular subject. Thank you very much. So,
Thanks for having me.
So should we go on to see, because let's see, I share my screen. Here we go. Geez, this is starting to work now. Now, Jeff is here?
Hey, John. Hey, John, can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Oh, one of my favorite people. Jeff Boad, associate professor, Monmouth University. Let me give a little background, Jeff, because he's been working with us for 6 years and doing wonderful things for Lake Como. There is an online map on the Lake Como website, which you can see, which has all the sewers and water supply. It has zoning, has flood zones, and down at the lakefront, it has GPS trees location and benches and stuff, all that sort of stuff. It's a great map with a lot of layers, and it was all done by interns. We did not pay a cent for it. So that started 7 years ago now in December, and and Jeff has been doing some absolutely fabulous things for us. And there was a gleam in our eye in 2017 that why don't we take all these things where we're changing, improving yards and so on, and put it on a map. And son of a gun, last August for our Candy's Garden 5th anniversary thing, Jeff kind of metaphorically walks in with a trial version of the map, and it blew everybody's minds. So now he's developed some more of it, and I think you just got to see this. You just have to see this. Okay, do you mind? Is this good enough, Jeff? Are you ready to go?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, let me get rid of my screen now. Stop share.
All right, so you should be seeing a map, I hope.
Yep.
Okay. And this is actually a map that's linked to John's website. So as the homepage, very simple in design, and it's mainly just serving to direct you all to the map. The map itself has the awards that John's been giving to yards in Lake Como, and the symbols acknowledge whether or not it's a new development in the yard. I think green is new, and then beige is something that's existing. Somebody's already maintained this in their yard. And then the sizes of the points are the levels of distinction that John's been awarding. I think the major developments since August, John, is basically getting this hosted on your website and getting the photos, starting to upload some photos. So people could actually take like a guided tour of Lake Como and see what people are doing with their yard. So we've done this for some. I think I have about 15 up right now, and I'm going to finish it this weekend and get some more photos up. So like, for instance, I have 1836 Briarwood, Lake Como, New Jersey, and it's a yard that has improvements in both the front and the back. It's distinctive. That's why it has the big dot. And then you can see all the features that it has, like apple orchard, cherries, grapes, all kinds of nice stuff to eat. And then if you click on the photo link, then you can actually see this, I think, is a photo montage that maybe John created in the award that was given. And yeah, you can slide through. So there'll be some yards that'll have a lot of photos, and some have just one. And I don't know, John, if people can contribute their own photos, that'd be pretty cool too. We can start to upload those.
Oh, right.
And so that way you don't have to do all the work. You can do a little crowdsourcing. But yeah, so there's, you can check out what people are doing with the yards and the map, and kind of see their photos of, what's happening in their yards. And it'll be all interactive, and it's going to be growing. As John is handing out more awards, we'll add to the map and add photos, and it'll be, I think it's a repository for ideas, right, John? People can look and see what other people are doing and try to adopt those ideas in their yards. And I think we have one down Spring Lake South from Sid. It's like somewhere down here. I can't see it right now, but I did add it today, but it's not appearing right now.
Oh, you did? Can you show Sid? Come on, we got to do this. Where are you, Sid?
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it right now, but yeah, maybe I might have broken the link when I was doing some updates, but I'll check it out later. Yeah. So, but yeah, so it's a work in progress.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. So I'll come back to sharing screen. Can I wait a minute? Here, I'll share the screen. I have a couple of things to say about it. This is, we're concentrating on the area, a rectangle between 18th Avenue and North Boulevard and Parkway and Main Street, okay? And because there's a lot of work to this, okay? And we've simplified as much as possible the data. You can see this, the ready reckoner type of way we look at trees. So we do the same thing with the yards and so on. And that's what allows us to actually create a map without being drowning ourselves in data. The other thing I want to just say is that I really kind of wanted Jeff to do the presentation here, because I think we really need to recognize everything he's done. And it looks like Monmouth University has recognized what he's doing, not just for us, but in all sorts of ways. And so he has just been over the summer, he's been awarded tenure on Monmouth University. So I think this is fantastic. Congratulations.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, couldn't happen to a greater guy. Okay, thank you. Is that it? So anyway, and so this works on your cell phone as well. And Jeff, I have to tell you, my granddaughter said she was going to show up here tonight. She's over in England. It's midnight there, but that's no problem for a college kid. And she said she was going to show up, and she didn't show up. I was going to say we're going to extend the demo to include the UK, but anyway, I'll talk to her tomorrow. Okay, now, so wait, there's a little more to this, and that is we're working toward a comprehensive approach that can be turned into a guide for others to use. And here's what we do. We evaluate the ways homeowners cover the ground based on example yards. We didn't show it this time. We've seen it twice. We have 15 yards, and you can take this sheet of paper and go around and say, is my yard like this one or that one or that? And you can virtually self-certify. We use Candide's Garden as the menu of action, but we also use Jersey Friendly Yards as well. Okay, I didn't have room on the slide. We award the certificates. We make it easy. We're working on getting plant lists. You go to the Native Plant Society. They got lists you wouldn't believe. It's fantastic. Okay, gives sources of plants, where you can get them. Kim mentioned Toad Shade Farm. They're fantastic. They're all mail order, but they're all just native plants. Designers, we have 3 native plant garden designers named, and installers. We have 1, we need 2 more, so we can recommend people, so people don't want to get their hands dirty, they can have somebody do it. We're beginning to work with existing planning processes, because that's where change happens in planning applications and things like that, and getting in and just knowing when something's going to happen and be able to advise people. We've done 3, and we're 3 for 3. All 3 of the applicants are interested in doing some good things, and that's important because that'll help us get our acre. We'll hold environmental garden tours, as Dr. Weber mentioned, and of course, display the results on online map. The idea is that we can measure progress, do it by year, and we can also use it to encourage other people to get on board. And just looking ahead, we'll have, I think Dr. Weber and I were talking about, we'll have pretty much do it on the EPA anniversary. That means we can evaluate during the summer while stuff is growing, and then sometime have these eco garden tours where everybody puts their yard signs out. The next task are to continue recognizing existing land, but encourage and recognize new improvement, and create this practical guide for other communities, i.e. putting Lake Como on the map. So we're known for something. And the benefits, okay, is increased support for wildlife and pollinators. You know all this. Reduced volume and toxicity of stormwater. Did you notice those driveways were all partially partially pervious. And the reason they got a certificate was because they're not directing all the stormwater into the drains, which go into the sewers and go in and do bad things to the lake. That's why they got certificates. And with our program for trees, we might slow the destruction of trees in town. And actually, the borough wants to focus on beautification, well, we can support that by what we do with beautification of our neighborhoods. And our goals by 2024 have 100 new improvements to get our acre, to create another one of our environmental destinations. We have 6, right? And then share our guide with other communities, and basically put Lake Como on the map. So that's where we're headed. And Mayor Higgins, are you there? I have to unmute. Do I have to unmute you?
I believe Mayor Higgins was called away.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I had a text from him. He said he was called away.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, there you are, standing in again. You did it last time. So, well, thank you
Sure.
so much for doing this, Peter. Peter is the liaison with the council, a member of the Environmental Commission and the liaison with the council. And he keeps the council up to date on all the crazy things we're up to. So, Peter, thank you for helping out with this.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you, John and Dr. Weber, for putting on this presentation and all the presenters. You really covered a lot. I know that I think in the past we might have covered mostly the recognition awards, but this time you really gave quite a presentation to educate the public on all sorts of things. And I think with these types of presentations, where the more people learn, the more they'll become involved in this to make their landscapes and their yards not just aesthetically more pleasing, but environmentally more pleasing. And just in general, and the more we do it as a small community like ours, hopefully this will rub off on surrounding communities and so on and so forth. And you really could see how something like this kind of program would just improve the environment in general, just 1 yard at a time. So congratulations to all the recipients. It's good to see more and more people doing this, and just look forward to more involvement. So thank you all.
Well, thank you. He's one of my favorite people, folks. He's a really good guy. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Weber, do you want to do the thank yous, or should I? Where are you? Whoops, wait a minute. Well, I'll do it. I think Dr. Weber might have been muted, and maybe somebody could help unmute her. Look, there's a lot of people who are involved, and we're very, very appreciative. The people who spoke in the presentation, the folks who donated toward the yard signs. Dan Globizzi, Allison's man, donated a painting, which at the Candide's Garden 5th anniversary celebration. Amanda Brockwell, she's with ANJEC, the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commission, but as an individual, she actually donated by buying the painting. And somebody else who we don't know what it was, but somebody threw a lot of money into our little canister we had. So that's bought the yard sign. So that's wonderful. And then the folks who donated toward the Patchwork map, Jeff showed up with the initial map. He just did it up because a student wasn't capable of doing it. So he actually did it. And now we're doing right by him, and it's a consultancy, which is really right. And Barry Duane, our trustee of Candide's Garden and Friends, provided some funds, and Rob Vaughn also provided some funds, so we'll be able to do this map now. Okay, and then and of course, all the people who help out in many ways, the EC members and the many volunteers who help along the way. So, so that's pretty much it. I'll stop sharing screen. And Dr. Weber, do you want to
Yes.
beam us up? This is I've said enough. I've said enough. That's it.
I do want to say thank you for everybody that attended this and also the speakers. They presented a lot of great information. I think that map is going to be a real hit once we get it all the yards on it and everything like that. And eventually we're going to expand to the entire town and also benefit the environment of the entire town. That is our goal. And I appreciate when everybody participates. And even if you do something little, that still counts. And it does improve the environment locally. So whatever you can think of to participate, that would be great. And again, I thank you for attending this meeting. And good night.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, John. That was great.
Great job.
and Sid-
Yes.
Sid and
Excellent.
Kim,
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Great
Bye,
job.
everyone. Thank
Good
you
night.
all.
Yes.
Great.